Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. And I'm joined here, as always, by the man whose decision-making in our championship round picks was equally as bad as Matt LaFleur's late-game decision-making in the NFC Championship game. Kyle, how are you doing?
I'm good. That was a very long-winded way of saying I did badly picking.
Yes, that's what I do. Long-winded points that aren't really even that noticeable. We had the final score for our picks, which no one cares about, but we're going to lead off with that mostly just because you ended up with 69 right now, which is you're 25 points behind now, Kyle. You've got some work to do.
It's all good. I went for it all this week. I thought I had an opportunity here. Wasn't able to do it. I blame Josh Allen for this.
Okay.
The moment I started trusting Josh Allen, it went downhill. I knew I shouldn't trust that guy.
All right. Well, just briefly want to talk about that. We're going to start off with the Bucs-Packers, of course. I'm a Bucs fan. I'm very happy. Luke Brown, the homer, is back. Yes, I am very happy about this. The Bucs are going to the Super Bowl, and this was just a fantastic game. It was weird because, I'll lead off of it. I thought that I think a higher percentage of the Green Bay Packers plays worked than Tampa Bay's plays. But this is kind of that money ball thing of Bruce Arians in this offense is this home run hitting offense. And Green Bay, they have a bunch of guys that'll hit 300 but won't knock the ball out of the ballpark. The Bucs have a bunch of guys that hit 200 and knock the ball out of the ballpark a bunch. And that was kind of the difference in this one was the splash plays.
Yeah, obviously they got they got a couple big splash plays early in the game and on that first drive, and then they got the one obviously at halftime. That was the big one everyone was talking about. It was just like, it looked like Tampa Bay was going to blitz them by doing everything that we said they shouldn't have done all year. They opened the game it's like back-to-back running plays and then a 25-yard pass on 3rd and 4. Only this time it works. So when it works, it looks great, So they made some they made some big plays on that first drive. It looked like everything was going. And early in this game, it just looked like the stars for Tampa were just going to completely overtake this game. Brady looked awesome. Evans looked awesome in that first drive. Godwin made a couple plays on that first drive. Shaq Barrett comes out with a sack on the first drive. The second drive, I think it was Jason Pierre-Paul. And it's just like, oh, wow. These guys are really showing out and blitzing them. And then, Packers made it interesting. They fought back and kind of got back into the game a little bit and started making some plays.
Yeah, it was incredibly stressful. Let's start with probably the headliner, Tom Brady, obviously going to his 10th Super Bowl now. This was a weird game for Brady. He was unbelievable in the first half, and then in the second half, he couldn't stop throwing interceptions, but was still able to get it done at the end.
Yeah, I mean, everything was working in the first half. He did a really good job. I think he started the game like 6 for 11, but had 4 drops. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that really was what derailed this Buccaneers offense. They kept dropping the ball. It seemed like everybody at one point had a drop except for Tyler Johnson, who weirdly becomes like the best receiver on the Buccaneers in like the last 7 minutes of the game.
Right.
But,
for any third down, like key third down, he's all of a sudden Calvin Johnson.
Yeah, I know. It's just it was very weird, but yeah, it just seemed like the entire offense got derailed when these guys started dropping the ball. But yeah, I mean, he was dealing early. He was picking apart this Packers defense. They did some weird stuff today. I do want to say that.
Who did? The Packers defense or the Bucs?
The Packers defense. They did some weird stuff. A team that ran zone defense virtually all year and was one of the best at it started throwing a bunch of man coverages at Tampa, and it's like, hey, Kevin King can't cover Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. This is a bad idea. And They just kept running it early, and it just did not work. It was very weird.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I think to piggyback off that, the weirdest was the coverage on the not quite Hail Mary, but pretty close, of running just a straight up cover one hole. If you want to play man coverage, that's fine. But I don't understand why you have 4 guys rushing. I don't understand why you only have 1 safety deep. And why are you devoting a linebacker to cover the middle of the field with 8 seconds left and no timeouts? That's like the one place Tampa Bay isn't going to throw the ball to.
Yeah, listen, I understand the thought of playing for the sideline. Like, I get it. Mm-hmm. But also don't be stupid. Because I saw the jokes of, oh, Greg Williams must have made that call. It wasn't even a Greg Williams call because nobody blitzed. Right. They rushed for it, like you said. So it wasn't even a Williams call. It was just a dumb call. And there was really nothing to it. They just, Scotty burned him. Scotty just ran past him. I don't know. I think one of the things that keeps getting overlooked. It's like Scotty Miller keeps getting compared to like Julian Edelman and every other white receiver Brady's
Wonder
played
why.
with.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's literally just a speed guy. He literally is just a downfield kind of receiver, and he just burns King immediately on that one and has no chance.
Yeah.
It was an unacceptable play call in my book.
Yeah, no, it made zero sense. And, credit to Tampa Bay for taking advantage. And that was also, one of Brady's better throws of the year. A perfect deep ball in freezing temperatures, 50 yards down the field. That's not easy to do. That was a back-breaking play, too, because that put, at the time, it felt like, okay, one-score game at halftime, Green Bay gets the ball. And right before it, there was the interception. So just that swing. And that's kind of what Tampa Bay does. They get these swing plays that'll just completely devastate the opposing team.
Yeah. The biggest difference in this game, obviously, you just have to look at the score line. There's two areas like Tampa Bay capitalized that Green Bay didn't. They scored 14 points off turnovers to the Packers 7. And the other one was Packers failed to score touchdown twice in the red zone. And that's pretty much the difference as the Packers lose by 5. I don't think they played worse than Tampa Bay. They didn't execute where it mattered the most. They didn't execute off of turnovers, and they didn't execute in the red zone. And just one more thing with the Tampa Bay offense against the Packers defense. They adjusted and got better. I thought they started sitting in more zone in the second half, and it clearly worked. And the second thing is when they're sitting in that zone, the defensive line started getting a little bit of pressure, which led to, it led to the second interception off that, it was bad block by Fournette, or it wasn't a block. It was a bad standing there by Leonard Fournette. Mm-hmm. But Brady probably should just take the sack on that one.
So I didn't hate that decision. It was 3rd and 2, just throwing up and see they got the ball at the 20-yard line. It could probably cost 10 yards. I think that's a fine desperation decision.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, I thought overall just that offense against the defense, I thought they did a better job. Jair Alexander did a great job in the second half, or really the whole game. It's his other players in the secondary that kind of failed him. And but it was just enough because they didn't take advantage.
Yeah, that's really what it came down. I thought that, we probably have to talk about Kevin King. This was a disappointing game for him, to say the least. He gave up, obviously, the big play to Scotty Miller, several others. He also had the somewhat controversial holding penalty late in the game. This was you got to feel bad for him. And I also feel like he was kind of hung out to dry trying to cover Chris Godwin and Mike Evans for most of the game. And that's just it's a tough task for someone. But at the same time, you got to play better too. If you want to go to Super Bowl, you have to have your second best corner play at least decent.
Yeah. He clearly was outmatched. It seemed like a lot of this game. I'm with you though that the play calling I feel like let him down. It definitely let him down on that touchdown pass to Miller. But at the same time, Tampa Bay is constantly a deep threat. They're constantly a deep throwing team. And you're constantly playing a single high safety, it seemed like a lot of the first half. And that's essentially where he got burnt a whole lot. But yeah, I think overall he was the worst player on the field, and Tampa Bay recognized it. It seemed like very early and just said that we're going to throw at this guy as much as we can. And it's the right thing to do, especially with Alexander on the other side of the field. You're not going to challenge him. You're going to challenge the other guy. And he didn't step up to the plate.
Yeah. We also got some playoff Lenny continuing to, really, he didn't play that well this game, but he just had that one incredible run that was it looked like he was Marshawn Lynch out there for one play.
He made 2 fantastic plays for me. He made that run, which was obviously unreal. And then the ability to catch that ball between 3 guys on 4th and 3 that led to the Miller touchdown. That was a great call from Arians to go for it, first of all. And then second of all, I thought that was a great play by Fournette to be able to make that play and fall forward between those 3 guys for the first down. That was a really nice play. But yeah, it was weird because they continued to try and establish the run as they usually do. And it was just it felt like every Ronald Jones carry was a waste. And they just continue to go to it at points. And it's Fournette's the only guy really getting yards here. He ended up with, what did he end up with? 12 carries for the day compared to 10 for Jones. I feel like that should have gone more in Fournette's favor, but at the same time, I know they do this by committee thing. It just felt like this was definitely not Jones's game, and it was evident early, and they almost were just wasting plays giving it to Jones.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. It makes it almost makes you wonder how healthy Jones is. But again, I feel like that's one of the things that I always get mad at is when someone has a bad game off after an injury and everyone assumes that they're still hurt. But still, I mean, 16 yards on 10 carries, that's not great. But the Packers' run defense did good. I want to talk about Bruce Arians for a second because I thought Bruce Arians, listen, love him or hate him, the idea he's someone who's coaching to win a football game, and he's not going to be afraid to take chances. And I thought that going back to the big play at the end of the first half, 4th and 3, they send a punt team on, but then he says, what are we doing? Let's go for it. What are the chances that we're going to score? What are the chances that they'll end up scoring in this sequence? Obviously, it's higher for the Bucs offense to score, gets the first down, and then also ends up getting a touchdown, not even the field goal. Just a really gutsy call. And I thought that, listen, this is the way Bruce Arians wants his teams to play, offensively and defense. Take chances, make plays, and get the splash plays. And I think that he deserves a lot of credit for this one.
Yeah, and before the game, I said that the Packers, I felt like, had a distinct coaching advantage. Well,
nope.
Bruce Arians wasn't afraid to go for it on 4th down and make plays and make things happen and be aggressive just throughout. Matt LaFleur did seem scared to take chances and go for it on 4th down and make things happen. And
let's talk about that.
131-26. So yeah, go for it.
Let's talk. So I have during the last 6 minutes of game time, I decided to record my reaction. I went live here on YouTube, so you can check that out if you want to see the full 30-minute total clip and runtime. This was my reaction when I found out that they were going for the field goal, and you'll see it on my face, the reaction. So I'm going to play that. And Mason Crosby is out there on the field. This is insane. This is what in the world is Matt LaFleur thinking? You're at the 8-yard line. How? I'm happy about it. I mean, don't get me wrong. Why would you do that? Yes, so that was my in live time reaction. I've looked up my favorite Twitter account, the 4th Down Converter bot, which said that it said that the correct decision was to go for it. It said strong, so usually it rates it or medium. I mean, so usually it rates it like weak decision, strong, medium, or very strong. So it said it was the wrong call, not like this horrible call. But I just think that you got to trust Aaron Rodgers, and you got to trust that Tom Brady is probably going to find a way to get a first down there. I don't know why you take the ball out of your MVP's hands in that situation. And he even agrees with that. He said afterwards that he made a mistake.
Yeah. I mean, I agree 100%. I thought it was the wrong call because at the worst case, Tampa Bay starting over at the 8-yard line, and you still, it's the same thing as the kickoff. You still need to stop. Cutting the lead for 5 points just makes no sense. So, yeah, I mean, I completely agree. It made absolutely no sense at the time. Everybody was talking about it immediately. And quite honestly, they didn't deserve to get the ball back after that because to put the ball in Tom Brady's hands saying, oh, we just need one stop. Well, it's Brady. It's not going to happen. And, they're able to get the pass interference call and then get the first down and win it.
Yeah, exactly. And even if it worked out, now you have 2 minutes and no timeouts needing a touchdown. That's really difficult to do. If Tampa Bay punted it, you could be looking at your own 10-yard line, needing to go 90 yards. You're basically hoping for a Hail Mary there. It was baffling to me. And I typically don't like to kill a head coach for a certain decision, but these are the absolute types of play calls or decision-making that drive me crazy, where it seemed like LaFleur didn't have a plan and just had to make a split-second decision instead of knowing before the game what he would do in every situation.
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel like, I mean, I'm with you. It's just like you got to play to win. It's not play to lose or play to, try and get closer. It's you play to win. You play aggressive, and that's what Arians did compared to LaFleur.
Yeah, I agree. This is a good segue. So we have a super chat. We appreciate that. How much of an impact do you think Vita Vea made? I actually think he made a big impact. And I think it's not a coincidence that you saw Shaq Barrett and Jason Pierre-Paul look like different players out there when Vita Vea was out there. I think that it was limited snaps, but him for the Super Bowl, I think that's going to be big against Kansas City, who lost Eric Fisher. So that's making things worse. I think he had a huge impact, even if it wasn't necessarily him making the plays. Again, he's a disruptor, and he did a great job disrupting when he was out there.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, this is probably Shaq Barrett's best game in couple months. I mean,
Yeah.
he was really good in this one, and a lot of that is because his big defensive tackles taking care of the run game. And yeah, I mean, Green Bay was held to 67 yards rushing. I know a lot of that had to do with the scoreboard too, but they didn't really have a lot of success early on running the football and kind of had to abandon it early. They got some bigger holes in the second half, but I thought Tampa did a great job early on stopping the run and getting after Rodgers too in the passing game.
Yes. Someone says it's pronounced Vea. I swear, no matter which way I pronounce it, the chat always tells me I'm pronouncing it wrong. No matter which way, so I give up.
Yeah, Vea is fine. Vita Vea.
Yeah. Whatever. You know who I'm talking about. Number 50. You want me to call him that? Yeah. No, yeah, he was great. And let's talk about the other side of the ball now. I thought Rodgers was awesome in this one. He had the one interception, obviously, and there was a bit of a stretch where a couple 3-and-outs, but I didn't really think that was his fault. I thought that the Bucs secondary played fine, not great, but good. And I thought that the defensive line really got pressure on Rodgers. I think losing Bakhtiari hurt a lot, but I thought Rodgers was really good in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was too. I thought the corners for Tampa played good in stretches.
Mm-hmm.
They had moments where they really kind of brought it. I think that as soon as I forget his name, you'll figure this out for me. As soon as the starting safety went out, who was the only starting safety left,
Yes.
Rodgers really started to just take advantage of them. It felt like. Go ahead.
Jordan Whitehead was the starting.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yeah, as soon as he went out, it seemed like Rodgers was just taking advantage of them. And I think what they noticed early is they thought they might be able to hold up on this Tampa Bay defensive line, and they weren't early. These long developing pass plays weren't working. And so they just essentially transitioned into, let's just start throwing the ball more quickly. And it was, a quick pass out to Tunyon. It was a quick pass out to Adams, got a couple first downs. And then all of a sudden they were rolling. It was like Rodgers didn't throw any complete incompletions for a while after that. I thought he did a really good job of adjusting the game plan kind of and attacking Tampa and honestly kind of just taking what they were giving him, which was the underneath routes. And he just did a really good job of doing that and making big plays out of it.
Yeah, and I thought I had something I was going to say and then I lost it. Don't you hate when that happens?
Yes,
it's the worst.
But no, I mean, I thought it was interesting what Tampa was doing because they were playing very deep. They didn't want the big Lazard play on like a play action play to kill them. Their safeties were staying pretty deep virtually the whole game, and I just thought Rodgers was doing a really good job of playing guys like Adams underneath, like hitting Jamal Williams and Aaron. I think Aaron Jones got hurt at one point, but playing his running backs underneath and just taking those kind of plays and getting big chunk plays out of it.
Yeah, Aaron Jones got hurt on the fumble recovery and on the fumble play, and I think that those kind of like those two plays were a big difference. I thought was the interception and the fumble. Both of those led to 7 points for Tampa Bay, and that's the kind of thing is it kind of feels like the way to beat this team is to not turn the ball over. Everyone talked about, well, Rodgers isn't going to throw essentially two pick sixes again. Well, he didn't, but he did throw one interception and there was a fumble. So, and both those led to scores. So it was kind of a similar effect there.
Yeah, I mean, both were in their own half of the field. I know the Murphy Bunting play was pretty close to midfield, but it was virtually, it was still their own half of the field, and they both resulted in touchdowns. So, kudos to Tampa's defense for jumping up and making those plays, and then kudos to Tampa's offense for taking advantage of them. I mean, this defensive line was just awesome in this game, though, wasn't it? I mean, you have to feel really good about this defensive line going into the Super Bowl the way it looked in this one against Rodgers and this offensive line.
Yeah, it looked good. I thought that I forget his name, but the backup left tackle for Green Bay, did not have a good day. And I actually think the defensive line looks really good, and especially against now a Kansas City banged up offensive line, it feels good heading into Super Bowl. Again, it's the Super Bowl, and Mahomes is there, so anything can happen. But you feel good about it. The flip side, though, is I do have to feel. Part of me feels like if the Packers had David Bakhtiari, they win this football game.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. Like,
I thought there was a lot of pressure on the left side that I don't know if I think there could have been a big difference. But that's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he probably would have done a better job, no doubt. And I think that could have made a difference. But it wasn't like, there was more than just I felt like Barrett and such making plays. I felt like a lot of guys were getting in the backfield. Maybe I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's probably true, though. Obviously, missing an all-pro left tackle is a big deal. So, But I mean, they still did a pretty darn good job, regardless of that, by getting plays. And like I said, once they kind of transitioned to that quick passing game, it started working for them. They just didn't convert in the red zone.
Right.
They failed to score touchdowns on 2 trips to the red zone, like I said, and then the third one they got a touchdown. When the play before, they probably should have got a intentional grounding that would have
Mhm.
negated or would have prevented the touchdown more than likely. So you got to be able to finish inside the 20, and that's something they didn't do this one.
Well, yeah, and that was the thing where, you think about like you said, the red zone offense. Something you said when you picked the Packers in our pick'em show was the Packers red zone offense is red hot, and they typically get 7 points when they're there. That didn't happen, and part of it was good job by the Bucs defense, and part of it was like there was that sequence with Devontae Adams where he drops a pass that it wasn't an easy catch, but it was one that he typically makes, and then he has another one where he's in the back of the end zone and. So I think he's just sort of maybe forgot where he was. It would have been tough to catch it and get inbounds, but he was not even close. So it's just kind of a weird sequence from Green Bay's, not their best player, but probably their best player who doesn't wear number 12.
Yeah, I think that one in the back of the end zone with the way he was kind of twisting was tough to get his feet down. But I mean, I don't blame him overall. But yeah, I mean, they got to find a way to convert something there, and it just seemed like they kept trying to go to the same things where there was. I know it works all the times because it's Rodgers, but it just felt like they were constantly going to these like rollout plays and eliminating half of the field. And they had one play too that they were trying to get Adams out in a flat, and I think it was Davis that just read it perfectly, and they just eliminated everything that the Packers wanted to do down there.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean it's tough. Let's see. Does Tom Brady or Tom Brady? Does Tampa Bay runs a spy coverage against Mahomes? I don't know. I appreciate the super chat. We'll maybe talk about that more later. But that's an interesting question. I'll think about that. But yeah, I also thought that it was just a very very fun game for me. It was stressful though. When Green Bay started coming back, I was nervous immediately. It was like one play with that one good play, and I'm like, oh god.
Yeah, I know. They really started getting some momentum there, and it looked like it was going to be instead of 28-3, it was going to be 28-10.
Hmm.
So how do you feel about receiving all the comments that Tom Brady is the luckiest quarterback ever now that it's on your side?
I mean, it doesn't bother me as much as it probably bothers Patriots fans because, like, usually people are saying like, "Oh, Tom Brady wasn't that great because the defense carried him." I'm like, fine, like I don't care. Like, what if we get a win? Doesn't matter. I guess we probably should talk about the no call at the end there, which I actually I think Packers fans have a point there. I think that was not called earlier on the Sean Murphy Bunting interception. I think the second one, the one Kevin King had, was a bit more egregious. But I still think that, if you're letting him play, I don't think you called up in that situation.
I thought I thought the difference was Bunting. Sean Murphy Bunting did a better job of disguising his hold than Kevin King did. That's
Yeah.
all there was to it.
Mhm.
He disguised it better. It's hard, especially because you look at where he was in that seam spot. The ref with the best angle is the back judge essentially at that point.
Mhm.
And he's grabbing the back of his left shoulder. The referee isn't able to see through the receiver to be able to see that holding call. So the sideline judge who's trying to watch the first down marker and everything kind of happening in front of him has to be able to see that play. That's a really tough call to make for a sideline judge because I feel like that's the back judge's job to make that call in the seam. And that's just too hard of a flag to throw when he can't really see on that side. So, I mean, he just did a better job of disguising it. I mean, I guess I can only put this in the terms that I understand. So I know I'm going to get some trolls for this comment, but and not to equate the NFC Championship game to high school football, but I played high school defensive back, right? You know what I
Basically,
love? What's that?
basically the same. I think it's fine.
Basically the same. So I
Yeah.
played high school football defensive back. You know what I wasn't doing when I was playing defensive back in high school? I wasn't thinking in my head, oh, they didn't throw pass interference flag earlier, so I can get away with this pass interference. Just don't commit pass interference and don't worry about it. Then you don't have to worry about making the play. That's my
Yeah.
comment on that.
No, that's all good stuff. I still think that Packers fans do have a reason to be upset, but I also agree with you in the second point of Kevin King put himself into position to potentially get a flag
Yeah.
when he held on to the shirt, and it's an easy call for the refs to make if they're calling that. They just missed Sean Murphy Bunting. There was also
Yeah.
kind of a hold there too, but again, we're getting into these little things now, and in every game, one team is going to have the refs favor them. I think Packers fans have a right to be upset, but that's the way it goes sometimes.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's not two calls that swung this game, too. It's
Yeah.
not like these two plays decided the entire game. Packers fans made mistakes that cost, or Packers, not fans.
No, it
Packers,
was the fans.
yeah,
Blame the fans for the
yeah.
loss.
Packers coaching made mistakes. Packers defense made mistakes. There was a lot of more. There's a lot more things than just those two plays. Not to mention, like I said, there was the play that led to the Devontae Adams touchdown, where it seemed like Rodgers was throwing into the back of the end zone and nobody was over there. That could have been an intentional grounding. That could have negated one of the Packers touchdowns. And then there was the Amos got right before he got the interception. It looked like a pass interference on that deep ball the play before. So, it goes both ways at the end of the day, and I'm okay with the results.
Yeah, I think I agree. I like how to let him play as well. Didn't throw too many flags in this one.
Yeah.
I have an interesting question. If these two teams played each other 7 times, this was game 1. Do you have the Bucks or the Packers winning the series?
So this wouldn't be game 2 because they played earlier?
Or either I mean, yeah, whatever.
So if it's a best in 7 series, I mean, I'm probably taking Green Bay, but I think these two teams are pretty close.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought
probably
they were
7.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think it's they're both really good. So, I thought they were the 2 best teams in the NFC for basically the last 4 weeks of the season. So I think Tampa really started to figure some things out, and it looked really good in the first half, and they hung on.
Yeah. Here's another idea. Give a letter grade for Tom Brady. If you have A through F, what would you give Brady?
C feels right.
Mm-hmm.
A first half, F second half.
Yeah, I think that feels about good. Yeah, I think that's right.
So, I just think, at the end of the day, like, I don't think all of those interceptions were his fault. I think maybe one of them was his fault, but they're still interceptions at the end of the day. So you kind of got to live with it. Even if those are incomplete passes, I don't think that makes it a good second half performance for him.
Yeah, I think I agree. All right, let's before we move on to the other game, let's eulogize the 2020/2021. It's just 2020, the 2020 season of the Green Bay Packers. It looked like it was going to be different. They weren't able to. It ends up with the same result as last year.
Yeah, I thought things were a lot better this year. I had said kind of all season that 13-3 felt sort of fraudulent last year, and they felt kind of head and shoulders below San Francisco. I thought things were I thought there were a lot of things better from this team. It just seemed more fluid throughout, and it's just unfortunate that they didn't get it done and didn't have their best performance in the NFC Championship game, which I'm sure LaFleur, Penton, and Kevin King would like to have some of this game back, definitely, especially that offensive line too. You could put them in there. They just didn't execute the way that they had almost all year, so that kind of stinks.
Yeah, it's hard to think of this game as anything but a missed opportunity for Green Bay. This was, we don't know how many years Rodgers is going to have left in Green Bay. My prediction is he'll have one more and then he'll go somewhere else. This was very disappointing blow for the Packers. And I know it gets talked about so much. Packers fans get annoyed when it gets brought up, but I still think it's fair to bring up them using a first-round pick on a quarterback and not using it for someone who could help them this year. That could have been the difference in a close game here in the NFC Championship game.
It's not even just that. It was what is it? The first-round pick on a backup quarterback who didn't suit for a lot of the year, and a second-round pick on a running back who was basically a bit part player. AJ Dillon ended up with 1 catch on 1 target and 3 carries for the game. Those are the 2 guys you drafted in the first 2 rounds. And, first and second round are usually your impact players, the guys you expect as rookies to compete right away. And neither one of those guys competed or did much at all for this Packers team, which just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Even a guy like AJ Dillon, who's so huge and so strong, like you saw that play where he carried the Buccaneers defensive back.
Mm-hmm.
You're struggling in the red zone and you have this guy sitting on the bench. You don't use him at all for any sort of situation. And there's not, it's not even like something that's like you're sitting on your couch thinking, oh, they could use AJ Dillon right here. It's that it's not even considered that he should be used in that situation, despite his size and how good he is. I don't know. Like, you got to be able to find impact players in the first 2 rounds, and they didn't, and that hurt.
Yeah, especially when you compare it to Tampa Bay, who they're not here without Tristan Wirfs, and Winfield didn't play today, but he's been a huge part of this season. Their first two rounds are two key starters for them.
I mean, you could honestly argue that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had the best two rookies on offense and defense this year.
Yeah, but that is also fair. Maybe a bit misleading. One last point: the Green Bay before we get into the other game, what do you do here for Green Bay? Because I think what you do is essentially nothing. You use your draft picks to help you, but you're still a great team. I think Rodgers has a deal left, 1 year left on his contract. You keep him. I don't think he goes anywhere, and you run it back one more time. See if you can get him another ring in Green Bay.
Yeah, I mean, this team still isn't that far. You run it back, you draft maybe a guy in the secondary, you draft a wide receiver, sign a wide receiver, whichever, and you make it happen. You see what you can do from there. I mean, they're still not far off. Back-to-back NFC Championship games are right there. So I can't say I necessarily blame them. They're close. I mean, so I don't know. Yeah, I mean, they're close. Can't blame them.
Yeah. Also, wild stuff from Aaron Rodgers at the end, sort of at the press conference. Not happy, I think, with some of the decision making by LaFleur. So that's enough to get the talking heads for that gives them about 6 months of content.
Yeah. Yeah, they're going to talk about that all off season now. Very cryptic message, kind of an Aaron Rodgers comment that I expect. We'll see what happens. I don't think he's leaving this year. I think he's still got another year. But yeah, I mean, he kind of left it all on the field this year. We talked about how much he played kind of pissed off this year, and he wasn't able to do it though. He fell just short again.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about the other game. So you had the Bills in this one. For a second, it was looking like you were going to be right, and then really the wheels fell off. You're very mad at Josh Allen. Go ahead. Air your grievances here.
I'm not that mad. At the end of the day, I'm furious.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not that mad. I'm livid. No, I just
Yeah.
Listen, it just seemed like this was definitely not his best game. He had some garbage time stats that make it look a little better. It started off really well because they rolled down. I thought they looked good on that field goal drive. I know it's just a field goal, but it looked good there. And then they had that weird punt return miscue by Hardman, which is something you don't see very often. They're able to recover the ball at the 3-yard line and score right away. And you're like, okay, Bills came to play in this one. And like you said, the wheels started falling off. I thought both defenses kind of had similar game plans. I thought both defenses were kind of bailing on early downs and saying, we're just going to keep things in front of us, tackle underneath. The difference is that, the Chiefs were okay with taking those passes underneath to Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. It just seemed like every time Allen was trying to throw downfield, it was a nightmare. It looked like he could have thrown about 5 interceptions in this game. I know there was at least 3 of them that I was like, oh, that probably should have been picked. And then he had the ball that was actually intercepted that was off a tip. So it just seemed like anytime they were trying to force the ball downfield in this defense, who early downs were kind of bailing, then they threw some cover 0 stuff at them to kind of catch them by surprise. And it seemed like anytime they were trying to force the ball downfield, it was just kind of a nightmare-looking throw that just didn't really work for me. And yeah, it was not the Bills' best performance. And you got to give credit to the Chiefs' defense, but you also, for what we saw from the Bills the entire second half of the year, it didn't come to the playoffs.
Yeah, well, I think a big part of it was just this Kansas City Chiefs secondary, which have had their 2 best games of the season, probably, both against the Buffalo Bills. They just match up well against this receiving core.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Breeland did a really good job. I thought Snead was making plays virtually all game. I thought Matthew, did Tyrann Mathieu things. So, yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I thought they made a bunch of plays, broke up a bunch of passes. And, yeah, I don't know what it is. They continue to make plays. It seemed like the only guy who felt dangerous for Buffalo a lot of the game was Cole Beasley, who had a couple catches underneath and made some big plays out of them. Outside of those, that's pretty much all that was the big impact guy, it seemed like, for Buffalo. And they weren't able to put him in a lot of spaces to be successful.
Yeah, I thought that, Diggs didn't get much going here. I thought you're right. Beasley was kind of the only guy. And, Diggs ends up with 77 yards. That was a bit of garbage time helping him out there. Yeah, it was just this is the Kansas City Chiefs team that all 31 teams going into this season feared. Their defense can play at a high level. And I think, obviously we know their offense. We'll get to that more in a second. But this was just this, and it honestly felt like a lot of the plays early on weren't even like design plays that were working. It was more so of like Josh Allen just sort of figuring something out, or like the offensive line. On one play, Allen had over 7 seconds, and he barely even had to move. Like the offensive line had a couple of moments, but it just wasn't enough.
Yeah, and I thought he did a really good job scrambling too. I think he ended up with like 88 yards. But
Mm-hmm.
I think the other thing too is we give credit to this Kansas City defense. I think one of the things we saw all year is how one-dimensional Buffalo essentially was. And I wonder if that kind of just played into the Chiefs. It's like, well, we don't have to worry about them running the ball. Let's just, sit back in our defense and force him to figure it out. And there were times where he wasn't able to figure it out, and there's times where he made a play, but it just wasn't enough to be able to make consistent plays downfield.
Yeah, and neither team really got much of a running game going. I mean, there was a 50-yard rush to McCole Hardman, but that's kind of a, that makes Kansas City's rushing stats look a lot better than they actually were, I think. Darrell Williams ended up with 40 yards on 13 carries. But yeah, I mean, it really came down to it's easy when you have a good secondary, and this is part of why I felt strongly Kansas City was going to win, is when you have a great secondary and that the rushing game isn't something you have to worry about too much. It becomes a lot easier to stop the pass.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does. And, I think the difference that we saw in this game, because like I said, I thought both defense kind of had a similar mindset. The difference was is I thought Kansas City's defense, while I thought Bill's offensive line had plays where they were successful, I thought Kansas City's defensive line was able to wreak some
Mhm.
havoc at points. And you saw some plays where it's like Allen's forced to go 10 yards backwards. He has a strong enough arm to make the throw, but he's still forced to start 10 yards farther than where he wants to almost. So I felt like the defensive line for the Chiefs were able to kind of get after him and, force him to make difficult decisions where the Bills were kind of just sitting back in this game, and the defensive line wasn't able to make plays. And that's something that when I picked the Bills based off their last week performance, I'm like, okay, I think that they can kind of get after this, get after Mahomes a little bit in this one, get past that hurt Chiefs offensive line, and they just weren't able to do a whole lot in this game.
Yeah, I mean, no, that's absolutely a point, and like I said, that's why I specified and said they had their moments in this one, but they didn't. But that was another thing I was going to bring up. Is this is one of the few times we saw a defensive line really get to Josh Allen, and we kind of speculated maybe it'll get pressure up the middle. I did think Chris Jones had a good day, despite his stat line ending up with only one assisted tackle, and that's all he ended up on the box score. But I thought he had a better day than that. And then Frank Clark, he's playoff Frank Clark. He gets a pair of sacks in this one. So that was also a big difference maker, was just them being able to get pressure.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like once again, it's this Chiefs defense is a star-driven defense. They have 5 or 6 guys they really trust, and they all kind of stepped up and made plays. And I'm getting pretty close to calling L'Jarius Sneed a star. This guy is he's the best rookie corner in the league so far. You got to give credit. There's a couple guys in the first round that had decent years, but this guy just continues to make plays. He almost had an interception in this one. He got a sack in this one. The guy's just a menace, it seems like, all the time.
Yeah, I think AJ Terrell of the Falcons also is in that conversation. But yeah, he's been great. And let's shift gears. Let's talk about. Oh yeah, on the other hand, they have Patrick Mahomes, that guy.
Yeah. They have Mahomes, they have Kelsey, they have Tyreek Hill. What could
Mhm.
go wrong? And
Right.
one of the things I actually liked was early on. Hardman has that bad fumble on the punt, and then they immediately start to get him the ball and kind of get him confidence back, because you don't want to lose that weapon early in the game and just pretty much say he's out. He had a nice catch, and then he had a big reverse play, obviously, that set up a touchdown as well. But yeah, like I said, I thought the Bills were kind of bailing on a lot. They're like, let's keep the ball underneath and just tackle. Well, they didn't. They left a lot of space underneath for Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelsey, and then they didn't tackle, which was the problem. Tyreek Hill broke off like 3 or 4 huge plays, and you can't. If you're going to play that style, I get it, because you're going to try and make the Chiefs go 12, 13 plays, but you can't miss tackles. You can't constantly miss tackles as they did in this one. And yeah, I mean, Mahomes picked them apart. He really did.
Yeah, and honestly, I didn't hate the game plan for Buffalo. Like, people were giving on him a bit, but I'm sort of like, what do you do? Like, there's no, when you have a loaded team like this, there's not much you can do.
Yeah, I mean, because the thing is if you immediately bring a safety up, if you're Buffalo, they're just going to go over the top of you. They're going to go over the top of you, and you're probably going to get burned on that too. It's the right play. They just have to execute. They have to tackle, those Tyreek Hill 20-yard plays have to turn into 5-yard plays when they make the first tackle and first contact. And they weren't able to do it. Tyreek was this was he's had some awesome games, and he's awesome all the time. This was one of his most impactful games, I felt like. I just felt like every time he caught the ball, he was going for 25 yards, at least.
He ended up with, I believe it was 172 yards on 9 catches. Travis Kelce also had 118. And again, that 1-2 combo too of if you want to play zone, well, Kelce can just, he can get in the gap and coverage with the best of them. And there was one play that I loved from Mahomes. So he had a handful of just like what the hell do you do plays. One of them, he's getting sacked. There's a blitz that wasn't picked up. He's getting sacked. Kelce is, directly behind a linebacker, so there's no way of knowing where he's going to go. But Mahomes just throws it to a gap in coverage next to Kelce and just hopes that Kelce figures it out. And Kelce does and picks up the first down. It's just like what do you do?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it really was. He just constantly made great plays. I always thought when we talk about greatest tight ends of all time, I think it's interesting because you bring up the conversation of Gronk and Kelce. I thought Gronk was the ultimate man buster, because he's just too big for a corner or secondary player. He's too small, and then he's too quick for a linebacker. Kelce's got to be the best zone player in the league right now, right?
Just player in general, I'm probably, yeah. I mean, he was leading the league in total yards, not tight end yards, in yards period before he rested, and he's currently got 5 straight seasons of 1,000 yards. I think the GOAT debate is hard of tight ends. I do think that Travis Kelce, I'm going to say he's the best receiving tight end. I mean, no one's put up the numbers he has receiving.
Yeah, I mean, receiving tight end, I don't doubt it at all. I mean, the question would be the blocking part. But right. Their first touchdown, he made an excellent block too. So it's not like he's not totally lost over there. I even as a Patriots fan, I struggle with this. I think Pete Gronk was insane, but at the same time, I also think health is a skill, and Travis Kelce has that a lot better than Gronk. But that's a different conversation altogether. I mean, yeah, he was just a menace in this one. It seemed like whenever they wanted to, anytime they really needed a play on third down, he's going across over the middle and just sitting between 2 linebackers.
Yeah, and he figures out exactly where he has to. It's one of those things that it seems so simple. It's like, how does a linebacker not just find a way to stop it? But they never can.
Well, yeah, I mean, it really is. Because the thing is that he gets behind them so well. He gets behind those linebackers and then works in between them so well. He's insane. It's just incredible. There's no good answer to this Chiefs offense when they're rolling like this, right? I don't know how any defense does it unless basically the Buccaneers just have to hope Shaq Barrett has a game like today, right?
No, they have to hope they score 40. We've said this all season long. The way you beat the Chiefs is you score 40.
Yeah.
You get a few stops and you score 40. That's how you beat them.
That's probably true. Or, Mahomes, hurts his big toe again, I guess.
Yeah, but we don't want that. That's not a great way.
No, I don't want anybody to get hurt. I'm just I don't know how the Buccaneers I honestly don't know how you game plan for this defense when it plays like this.
Well, it's, the interesting thing is you look at we'll touch on it a bit. The first time these two teams played, Kansas City scored 27 points. It was not they had a ton of yards, but they didn't necessarily always convert it into points. And when Tampa Bay in the second half, they were able to slow down Kansas City a bit. And they were able to do a pretty good job. So it'll be interesting to see with a full game plan, what works, what didn't. We've seen Tampa Bay, after having something not work against the Saints, know how to adjust. So that'll be interesting. But again, there is no stopping Mahomes. There is only slowing him down marginally.
Yeah. I'm going to be interested because I felt like in this game especially, it's like I can't really go back and watch like these two games because they were both rematches. I felt like I can't really go back and watch these games and get a whole lot from it. I am probably going to go back and watch this Chiefs-Bucks game and see what we can see out of that second half. Because the first half was like, I think Tyreek Hill had over 200 yards in the first half of that game, right?
In the first quarter.
Yeah. So I'm interested to see the second half, how it adjusted. And was it the Chiefs just kind of coasting and on cruise control, or was it something Tampa did? I'm going to have to go back and watch it. It's been a while, so I'll see what happens there. And obviously we'll talk about that further down the line. Yeah,
my recollection was Tampa Bay went to a 2 safety look after going to a single high safety for a lot of it. So I think that was part of it. I'm not sure. There's obviously a million intricate details. Also talking about everyone says you can't take, week 6, that doesn't matter. Well, there were kind of a good amount of takeaways we ended up being able to take from both of those two games. I think especially in this one, it was, once again, the secondary, as we talked about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is so. I have an interest. I had a thought. I think Tony Romo joked about how, like, if Mahomes retired today, he would be a Hall of Famer. Is that a joke? If Mahomes after the Super Bowl were to retire, he says, I don't, I have money. My health is important. I'm going to retire. I think he might be.
So you're saying if he wins the Super Bowl?
Win or lose, and then retires.
Yeah, I mean, he might be.
Yeah.
He's definitely the most like he's the most purely talented quarterback ever. You can make the argument for Rodgers, but this guy just, you saw those 2 or 3 blitzes that he basically was just almost able to just shimmy shake, get open, and then make a throw for 20 yards. It was insane.
Yeah, I mean, the most talented is such a difficult question because how do you quantify that? I mean, you could go back to Sammy Baugh, who led the league in. Yeah, I mean, he led the league in defensive interceptions as he was a two-way player. He also led the league in punt yards and I believe passing touchdowns in the same season. So he might be the guy. Tough to beat Slinging Sammy Baugh.
Yeah, that's fair. I can see that one.
Okay. All right. Our next podcast will be an hour-long discussion on who is more athletic, Patrick Mahomes or Sammy Baugh. So Kansas City Chiefs back here again. It's fun. They could be the first team to repeat since Tom Brady's Patriots. I don't have too much more to add on this game. It was kind of I don't want to say a dud, but it was over in the fourth quarter.
I felt like the Chiefs had it pretty comfortable almost before halftime. Even with, I thought Buffalo did a better job of moving the ball at points. I still was like, Kansas City seems like they got this.
Mm-hmm. I live bet on the Chiefs once they went down 9-0. That's something for all you bettors out there, gamble responsibly, of course. Always live bet on the Chiefs, Kyle. Always live bet on the Chiefs when they go down early because they're at least gonna cover the spread.
Yeah, no, you're probably right. So I saw Barstool had this +3.5 or -3.5 Kansas City for the Super Bowl. How do you feel about that?
That's about right. I was going to say 3 points. I think that, the first game was 3. I feel like both of these teams are really good. That feels right for me. I would have probably put it at 3. What about you?
It's interesting because obviously the question is, because this is usually neutral site, this is the first time we're seeing a home field advantage for the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. How does that play into the line? Because it's usually about 3 points for home team. So if this was actual neutral site, would this be Kansas City -6? I don't know. It's interesting. I probably would have done 2.5. I would have done Kansas City by 2.5.
Okay. Well, again, kind of splitting hairs there, I think.
I like that field goal hook.
Okay, that's fair. Fair enough. Fair enough.
I'm interested in making money. Okay.
Right. Okay. I don't know, but yeah. So it's should be a very fun game. Do you have any final thoughts on the Bills Chiefs?
No, I think we just about covered it. The stars on Kansas City's defense showed up. Patrick Mahomes is really good. We'll see what happens. This is a fun Super Bowl. Round 5 of Brady and Mahomes.
Okay, yeah, and we'll do some listener questions. We have about we like to go over an hour. We have about 12 minutes, so get your listener questions in on the chat. We'll answer those. But before we do that, let's eulogize the Buffalo Bills here. On one hand, a great season. If you told any Bills fan, hey, Josh Allen's going to be a legit MVP candidate, and you're going to go to the AFC Championship game, you would feel great. On the other hand, this is a blown opportunity. You had a shot to win a Super Bowl here, weren't able to get it done. Who knows how many opportunities you'll have? What's your eulogy for Bills Mafia and the Buffalo Bills?
Yeah, I mean, this was a really fun season. And I'm sure I do think that they're pretty much just thrilled to kind of be there kind of thing. I guess the question kind of becomes as we see, these young contenders with the Browns and the Bills kind of step up and play this Chiefs team and fall just short, or, the Browns played it a lot closer. Both of them fell short against the Chiefs, though, I guess the question is, as these two teams head to the offseason, how do we get better to beat this team? How do we improve our team to be able to beat this team? I don't think it's as clear cut. The Bills worked hard to finally get out of that Tom Brady shadow. Are they stuck now in this Mahomes shadow to hit the next level?
Yeah. Do you think there's a part of Bills fans that are a little bit happy that they don't have to? Obviously, they would have loved to go to the Super Bowl, but you don't have to worry about Tom Brady beating you in the Super Bowl.
I'm sure they're happy
that would
about
just
that.
been awful.
That'd be demoralizing to lose to him again one more time. But
But
no, I
actually,
mean,
now that I think about it, on the other hand, I kind of feel like it would hurt worse. I feel like Bills fans would want an opportunity to, if you're going to win a Super Bowl, do it against Tom Brady. Like that would be the most satisfying thing ever. Now they don't get that.
yeah. I don't know. That's a tough one. I'm obviously not a Bills fan, but
Right.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just it's a weird thing. It's like how, but yeah, once again, it's like how does this team get better? How do they hit that next level? I think they can add a few pieces to this defense, particularly on the defensive line. But I mean, they were close. They're close, and the leap from Allen is one of the most incredible leaps I think I've ever seen. Just for a quarterback to get 10% more accurate, that's a 1 in 1,000 sort of thing to see that happen after from year 2 to year 3. And it was I still think he has some work to do, but he did a really good job this season. He was one of the best 5 quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah. All right. Let's get some listener questions now. We have Living Dead says Bucks held Mahomes to 100 yards in the second half when they faced off this season. Do you think the Bucks look at that and all of a sudden things get interesting? I mean, obviously, yeah, they're going to look at it. I think that's an interesting. It's an interesting point. I think that there definitely is. I mean, it is interesting. How much do you think that'll matter? I guess is what I'll say about the. You said week 6 didn't matter too much. Well, this was week 12, so obviously it's a lot more recent. I think that Tampa Bay has gotten better offensively since then. But how much do you think that maybe looking at those differences could be a key to Tampa Bay?
Yeah, and it was kind of like after this game that they kind of flipped the script on, especially on offense, and kind of got things going after that bye week. I think they're going to look at the game and kind of analyze what they can do. I'm sure they'll take some notes from that second half of how they'll apply the game, but I don't think it's going to look much different from Buffalo. I don't think it's going to look much different from Buffalo. It's not going to look much different from some of these teams who play Kansas City. They just got to tackle. I think the one thing I'm interested to see is I'm curious to see the health of these safeties for the Super Bowl. I'm assuming they're both going to be back, but I really think they need both of those guys back to be able to limit Kansas City on offense.
Yeah, I think they might be okay without Whitehead, but because I thought Mike Edwards did a good job of filling in for Winfield, but we need at least 2 of our safety, 2 of our top 3 guys in Winfield probably.
Yeah, I definitely think Winfield has to be back, and then I mean this is going to be a really hard game on Devin White. I mean he has the speed to cover sideline to sideline. This is something I talked about all year. He's the best linebacker in football, in my opinion, because of his speed going sideline to sideline. How's he going to be able to cover these guys underneath? Because a lot of that is going to fall on his shoulders, I feel like.
Yeah, it should be interesting. We have this is a good one. Best matchups for Chiefs to exploit come the Bucks or Chiefs to exploit. The first one that jumps out to me is Tyreek Hill, who obviously went off in the first quarter of that game. He could have potentially a big day.
Yeah, I mean he I think that the Bucks secondary loves to play really aggressive and they play really physical, and that's something that Tyreek Hill can kind of burn, especially when he gets past them. I think that could be a big play too if he's able to do that, like he did obviously in that game in Week 12. And then on the other side, I'm curious to see Antonio Brown. I'm curious to see Antonio Brown work in the slot because we've seen Breeland and Snead on the outside. They're tough to throw on. So I'm curious to see how Tampa Bay works the middle of the field with those guys and Chris Godwin.
Yeah, I have a thought that I just thought of right now. I feel like every year when this happens, people just need to fill time, and they come up with I listen to a lot of podcasts, Kyle, and it feels like seemingly every single podcast eventually says like who will be the unsung hero, and I feel like it's always like people that like everyone like kind of knows. What is your opinion for who people are going to talk about as being an underrated player in this game?
Could Scotty Mailer make a big play here?
Yeah,
I mean that's the obvious one, isn't it?
Or I think like, hey, rookie Tristan Wirfs, right? No one talks about him because he's a right. Even though like anyone who actually talks about football, very very well. I think Scotty Miller, Tyler Johnson could be another good factor. Some of the wide receiver depth I think could happen.
Yeah, I mean I think that's a big one. I'm curious to see Gronk too. Does Gronk have one more big game left in him? He's someone who kind of when he was on the Patriots, he was able to kind of beat up the Chiefs. I know that's a completely different Chiefs team, but he was able to kind of beat up on them in multiple different situations. Does Gronk have one more big game left in him to get a Super Bowl?
Yeah, that should be interesting. Again, keep the questions coming in the chat. If anything you want, maybe any questions about something we didn't cover in the first two games, that would be a good one. Also, one thing I didn't mention, Rashad Fenton had like an incredible. I thought him getting that interception, where I know it was tipped, but him realizing like it's man coverage, the ball comes up, and he's able to, he stepped aside already, basically abandoned Cole Beasley, who could have been open. That was I thought that was
We
great.
had two great deflected interceptions in that one. That one was really good. And that Jair Alexander one that was deflected, it was a little high off Evans. But to be able to stop like that and come back across your body to make that play, that's an incredibly difficult catch that he made it look really easy. But yeah, two really good tip drills by those defensive backs.
Yeah, I love that because like there's kind of like this weird thing with like Patriots fans and Bucks fans where obviously Patriots fans are rooting for the Bucks because of Brady, or at least most of them are. And there's every now and then there's something like that, and people are like, everyone is rooting for like people, Patriots fans are saying Mike Evans has to catch it, and Bucks fans are saying Brady has to throw that one better.
Yeah, I mean the throw was high. But I don't know. I did feel like it was catchable. I think he mistimed his jump was the big thing. I think if he timed the jump a little bit better, he has a chance to go up and snag it. But that's a tough catch. I understand it. I do think that the Bucks, they can't drop that many passes in this game, right? They had way too many, it seemed like it changed the whole offense, like I said. It seemed like it changed the whole offense when these guys were dropping balls.
Temperature won't be in the 20s also, so that might help.
Yeah, that's true. Fair enough.
Living Dead, can we say this would be the hardest Super Bowl ever won if Brady wins it? Brady at 43, having to go on the road, wild card team, no preseason through Breeze, Rodgers, and Mahomes. I think that Joe Flacco's run is probably still number one. I know I'm the Flacco homer, but beating Andrew Luck and the Colts, then Peyton Manning and the Broncos, then Tom Brady and the Patriots, and then that great 49ers team. I think that one was a great one.
And that was an insane Colin Kaepernick year, too. Colin Kaepernick that year was probably a top 7 quarterback when he was playing, at least. That was really disrespectful to Taylor Heinicke, too, by the way.
Yeah, it was. I meant to mention that.
Like
that. The GOAT, future GOAT, Taylor Heinicke. All right, so let's see. Trying to see if there's any more. Let's see. If you see any questions, let me know. All 3 interceptions were intended for Evans. Almost all 3 I want to blame Evans on for not having awareness hands. This is an insane take, right?
Yeah, no, the first pick was definitely Brady's fault. He threw into a safety. He didn't look him off very well. The blitz one, I blame Fournette more for that. And, like you said, it seemed like Brady was just kind of like, oh, I'll punt on the play and see what happens. I don't know how Mike Evans is supposed to see Leonard Fournette miss the blitz and stop on the play. So I don't know what he's supposed to do on that one. You could argue for the drop, but it's still a really tough catch. So, yeah, I don't agree.
Yeah, he did have Evans. In fairness, though, Evans did have a bad drop that would have been like a 50-yard gain. That one was tough. I see some people talking about who's better, who's going to have a better game, Sammy Watkins or Antonio Brown.
I'll go with Brown. He's a better player, so he's probably the best receiver of this generation. So I'll go with Brown to have a better game.
Yeah, is Sammy Watkins? I should know this. I don't know the health of Sammy Watkins. I know he didn't get in the stat sheet tonight. Did he?
I don't think he played today.
Yeah, I know neither one played. Maybe I was saying that assuming that they would both play, but yeah. Anyways, all right. We got a minute and a half left. And you have any final thoughts on just this weekend as a whole?
There's one football game left. We're going to have a whole Sunday without football. I don't know what to do with myself. There's not even a Pro Bowl to entertain ourselves. So, yeah, I mean, this was a fun week, though. I thought these games were really good. And, I mean, that Packers-Bucks game, I think, is going to be on, NFL Classic sort of thing. That was a really good game.
I don't know if it was that good. It was good. But it's not like an all-time great.
It was fun.
It would have been an all-time great had the Packers scored at the end there, and then like it goes to overtime or something.
That's fair. I guess so.
I mean, it will get played. It was a good enough game. It's going to get played a lot more than the Bills Chiefs. We can say that.
Yeah, that's probably fair. Yeah, that one was a blowout. It felt more like a blowout.
Luke Brown. Oops, I hit the wrong one. It refreshed. Petition for Kyle to replace Kevin King. Kyle, I think you could get that cornerback. Get back in NFL shape real quick.
Yeah, let me go ahead and get some sit-ups going. I'll send you my high school tape, and you can do a film study on it.
Okay, sounds good. A couple people have
I'm
asked
just
me to
kidding. I'm not going to do that.
A couple people have actually asked me to do that. I'm like, I'm not as good of a film study guy as you think I am. I'm not. I can talk about NFL stuff. I'm not. I can't tell you these fundamentals and things. I'll ask this question only because I accidentally put it on the chat earlier. What are your initial thoughts on Bucks O versus Chiefs? I think the big thing is just they're going to have to get time, and with the way the Chiefs' defensive line played, they can't get that much pressure against Tom Brady for the Bucks to have a great shot.
Yeah, I mean, I think if the offensive line continues to play the way it has the past few weeks, I think they're going to have a great shot of attacking this defense. This offensive line, I think that's something I don't think we really talked about enough. They were really good. I felt like in this one, especially in the first half, and I think they're going to have to continue to do that. Yeah, I know you're making the joke about the Tristan Wirfs thing, but he has to win his battle. He has to win his one-on-one battle. That's a big matchup there, and he's definitely talented enough too. So it's going to be a big matchup on that offensive line. And we talked about these corners for Kansas City. I do think that they're going to kind of have to attack them a little bit too. They're going to have to win those matchups on the outside. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, it should be interesting. Should be a fun game. Thanks to everyone in the chat. Thanks to everyone who's watching after the fact. We do appreciate this. Only one recap show left, but we do have some fun stuff. We're still going to go twice a week up until the Super Bowl. So it's making sure I have this right. Wednesday, what we're going to do is we're going to have a draft. We're going to draft who we think will win Super Bowl MVP. So that should be fun. Be on the lookout for that. Then Sunday, we're a week from today. We're going to just have a regular. Oh no, am I doing my wait? Am I remembering this right? I feel like I forget.
Sunday. So let me do this. So
Yes.
Wednesday we are going to have a like you said, we're going to have a Super Bowl MVP draft. We're going to go through and pick the players most likely to win Super Bowl MVP. Sunday we're going to do an off-season podcast. We're gonna wait till as long as we possible to make our Super Bowl picks. So Sunday we're gonna do an off-season podcast, just talk about the coaching things because we haven't talked about a lot of that. So if you're a fan of one of those teams, make sure to tune in next Sunday. And then the following Wednesday, the Wednesday before the Super Bowl, we'll do our full-on preview, predictions, all that kind of stuff. If you're going to bet, make sure to bet against me because I have picked wrong the last 2 weeks. Yes. So make sure to tune in a week from Wednesday for that one.
Yeah, and all the times there will be 9 o'clock Eastern for all three of those, and then except for the Super Bowl recap, time TBA on that one. But yeah, so again, appreciate it. And Kyle, let them know where they can find you before we head out.
Yeah, you can follow the three of us on Twitter. The three of us being me, Jackson, and this podcast. So follow Jackson at Jackson Kruger. Follow me at by Kyle Grondin. That's GRONDIN. By Kyle Grondin on Twitter. And also follow us at I'm drawing a blank on it again. I forget this every week. I don't know why.
On the sideline, JK.
At on the sideline, JK. Make sure to follow us at on the sideline, JK. Yeah, tune in.
Yes, definitely tune in. Also, I just checked it out now. I didn't realize you retweeted the fourth down decision bot on that account. Good work.
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, that was me. So
yeah. All right. Well, again, thanks to everyone. We will be back Wednesday. We'll see you then. And until next time, have a good one.
Peace.